So in this one, we are going to go a little bit more advanced, and I'll just say up front, if it gets a bit too complicated, just skip on to the next tutorials, because after this, we go back to the very foundational and incredibly powerful and useful, simpler Excel lessons. So this one is a little bit more if you just really want to get stuck in to how to selectively add and sum and specify criteria for information inside a list. So in the last tutorial, we basically built these extra columns. And now what I've done is in here, I've just quickly inputted the SUMIF formula that you would use to basically sum up together all of these necessities. And it's based on the two different methods, the two different approaches. So either it is not luxury and it is not a gift, in which case it's necessary, or in the other approach, it is either food or bills. And so using that, and then if you combine it with a SUMIF, you're able to get the output. So I'll just do that again quickly here. So SUMIF, and then you've got your range, which is the criteria range. And to start with, that's going to be this range here. You want to know, is it true? And if it is, then you want to sum together whatever is in this range. And again, freeze the range in place. And that's it. You get 206, which you can kind of test just for yourself. Like, is it food or bills? And just select those and you can see down at the bottom right that it's summing up to 206. So this formula is correct. Now, the other one, if you're doing the OR approach, is actually just the same thing, really. You just move this over to here. It's arbitrary. It doesn't matter because the OR is in fact only different in this column, but really it's outputting the same results. And so all you're doing here is changing the column, but you don't need to. I mean, it can stay. It'll be 206 either way. But yeah. So nothing new really, just kind of applying lessons from the previous tutorials. What's new is and more complicated is how you can do all of this without needing these extra columns. And that's where we're going to use something called Sumifs. So it's similar to SUMIF, but let's have a look at the criteria, which is slightly different. So Sumifs, it asks you for the sum range first. Don't ask me why, but if it's just SUMIF, it asks for the sum range last. So that's just something to bear in mind because it threw me off a lot at first. So it wants to know, first of all, what list am I adding together from? And it's going to be this list, the list of costs in column B, and fix that in place. Now, it knows it's going to have multiple criteria ranges. This is what's different to SUMIF, where it only accepts one criteria range and one criteria. This is going to accept multiple criteria ranges and multiple criteria. So what is the criteria range? Well, it's going to be, first of all, it's going to, well, in fact, it's going to be this. It's going to just be the category. So that's the criteria range when we're doing it this way. So instead of using the extra columns, now we're just going to say, okay, no, the criteria range is going to be this column here. And the first criteria, we want to know that it is not luxuries and it is not gifts. So the way to, you'd think that the way to do that would be to say not, right? Because that's the syntax, right? Not A5. Unfortunately, this won't work. And it's a shame that it doesn't. I kind of think that it would make it a lot easier to learn if it was this way. But you know what? Just for now, let's try it, and I'll show you what happens if you try and do it this way. So the next, we're going to carry on where it now wants the next criteria range. It's actually the same criteria range. So again, you'd select that, freeze it in place, but this time you want it to not be gifts. And so that you'd think should work, but oops, it doesn't. It just returns 0. And that's because it's a quirk of Excel that I wish wasn't the case. But see, using not here just doesn't work. There's some special syntax that you need to specify that it is not A5. And what you have to do is within speech marks, do less than, greater than, close the speech marks, ampersand. This basically, this little segment here means it is not whatever follows. So it is not A5. And same again here. You want to also say that it is not A6. Now all of a sudden that works. So that's how to do it if you're wanting to specify multiple criteria that you're wanting to check that these multiple criteria are true at the same time. So it is not the one thing and it is not the other. Now in here, you want to test whether it is one thing or the other. And first of all, I'll show you why Sumifs won't work. Because you might just think, okay, let's do the same thing. We'll have the sum range, which is going to be over here, and freeze that. And then the criteria range is going to be here, freeze that. And the criteria for the first one, this time we're going to say, well, if it is food, add it together. And then we'll do criteria 2. And then criteria range 2, and then criteria 2. If it is bills, then add it together. So you'd think that would work, but it doesn't. And that's because Sumifs is fundamentally an and statement, not an or. So it will only add and sum these together if all the criteria apply. Now this obviously is only food. It is not also bills. So that's why trying to do it with a Sumifs won't work if you're wanting to specify an or rather than an and. What you have to do instead is simply add two SumIf formulas together, or as many SumIf formulas as there are criteria that you want to be included, as it can be any one of these things, and then I want you to add it together. So with SumIf, remember that the sum range goes at the end. We're starting with the criteria range. So if the criteria, this time we're saying if it is food, and freeze that in place because that's a fixed formula. Or we're saying also if it is also, oh, and I forgot to add the actual sum range here. Don't forget the sum range, that's important. Freeze that in place. And so we're saying, well, if it's food or if it is, and then we've got the criteria range here, or if it is bills. We'll freeze that in place. Then I want you to sum them together. And there you go. You get the same result. And with these two here, I should probably say efficient versus non-efficient, necessities non-efficient. With these two, you don't need any of this. So I can delete it and it will still work correctly. But with these two, you need the extra columns. So yeah, it takes a little bit of getting your head around how Sumifs works versus how Sumif works. When to use Sumif and just add them together. That's if you're using the or approach, one or the other. But if you're using the and approach, then you can just use Sumifs. We've used not here. So yeah, not doesn't just get input in the normal way into the Sumifs string. It needs to have this syntax here. So I hope that all makes sense. As I say, this one is a little bit more advanced, but it's just for you to get your teeth stuck into if you want to get really kind of confident and efficient in summing ranges based on specified criteria. Okay, but we're on to simpler things in the next video.